Let's go, people, let's go. It's prognosis negative time.
Hi, this is Eric, and welcome back to this, my second prognosis negative Cinema Quickie. And I really need to make this a quickie because I am in the parking lot right now and it is baking out here. Before I get into the movie you came for, let me just say that after I saw Across the Spider-Verse a couple days ago, I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse, the first of the trilogy, and I have to say I didn't recall or remember that whole double focus, weird blur effect that was so prevalent for me in Across the Spider-Verse. I didn't realize how present it was also in Into the Universe. So maybe I was being a little bit crazy last time on the podcast. I'm not really sure. Or maybe it was, as I said. Just wanted to clear that up. All right, what we all came for. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. I just got out of the IMAX just now, and all right, I would say this movie was a bit of a mixed bag for me. Oh, and before I get deep into this, let me also say that even though this is a spoiler cast, normally prognosis negative, with these Cinema Quickies, I kind of feel I want to straddle the line a bit and be more mild to medium spoilers. I don't want to go full spoiler, but for those of you who've seen it, you'll get my references, and those of you who haven't seen it, you'll get some mild spoilers, but I won't ruin the entire movie for you. Anyway, a bit of a mixed bag, some good, some bad. You know, when I saw the trailer for this movie, or saw it several times, I was afraid that this movie was going to lean more into the Michael Bay blockbuster, huge explosion, cacophony, bombasticness, you know, and kind of steer away from the laid-back tone and feel of Bumblebee, a movie which I really quite like a lot. But now, having seen the movie, while there are the major set pieces, and of course, this shouldn't be a spoiler, but there is a big battle. While it does exist, actually, I think this movie hews more closer to the Bumblebee tone of things, which for me is a plus. Another thing that kind of worked for me is, while there are multiple human characters in the movie, we really only concern ourselves, for the most part, with our two central. And while there's a family element like there was in Bumblebee, not nearly as much as Bumblebee. And actually, I'm okay with this, because if you've listened to my reviews that are mostly on other feeds on previous Transformer movies, you know I said many times that I kind of wish the Transformer movies, the live action ones, would focus more on the Transformers themselves and less on the cavalcade of humans, as in especially the Bay films. And this entry into the series is probably the lightest on humans. So, you know, I'm good with that. But speaking of some of the ancillary human characters, the ones that don't really have much presence, I didn't really appreciate how some of the humans that our two main human protagonists interact with were just kind of just obvious douchebags. I don't know, kind of lame, but you know, what can you do? This movie isn't super deep on plot. In a way, it kind of just reminds me of a random episode of typical G1 Transformers in the 80s. And I guess that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your taste as a viewer. The humor was not a great thing for me. I mean, it too, in a way, harkened back to G1 cartoons, in that if you're a younger person, it's all good. But if you're an adult, it's kind of lame stuff. Now, it's not as offensive, not nearly at all. None of it's offensive, like the way the Michael Bay humor could be, especially the Michael Bay ethnic humor. But it's just neither here nor there. So again, results will vary based on you and your tastes. Again, we have another MacGuffin-like plot device in the transwarp key. All right, I mean, these movies aren't high cinema, so I can go along with that as well. I mean, it gives a reason for our heroes to unite. And honestly, that's really what it's all about in this movie. It's not really about... That's why it's MacGuffin-like, the transwarp key, because it's not... The movie is about that, but it isn't really. It's really more about developing the Noah Diaz character and him finding himself. And you know what? That's fine. That's good, too. The score of the movie was kind of neither here nor there for me. And I was kind of feeling mid on the whole movie experience in general. But there is a moment late in the film where the composer of this movie harkens back to the iconic Jablonski theme from the Michael Bay Transformer movies. And I just have to admit that I have somewhat of a Pavlovian response when it comes to that theme. I absolutely adore it. The first time it hits hard in the original Transformers live action movie is still one of my favorite moments in perhaps the entire run of the franchise. And when that theme came on late in this movie, despite whatever I thought up to that point, I was just transported back to 2006 for a moment and having that joy I experienced with the first live action TF movie. Now, there is one final thing to address, and there is an organization that is revealed at the end of the movie, and I 100% thought for sure it was going to be a certain acronym, but when we get the reveal, I'm gonna have to think on that one. Definitely out of left field. It's obvious what Hasbro is trying to do there. TBD on that one. I don't know. That was a little bit dumbfounding. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one more thing because, oh my gosh, I'm sweating buckets over here now. But this movie does take place in 1994, and there is a pretty killer hip-hop soundtrack, decade appropriate, and they chose well. They chose well with their selections. You know, even though it's 94, I mean, there was hints of it. I didn't feel like it was a super 90s movie, kind of like the way X-Men Apocalypse was. You had a little bit of the fashion, but they didn't go too hard. Oh, maybe the 94 Jordans. I did recognize those, which I had in 94 myself. But the musical choices, that was the thing that transported me back to the time period more than anything. And I do appreciate that reminder of, I'm just going to say it, reminder of a time when hip-hop was doing it right, in my opinion. One more thing before I forget. There's a certain Autobot we meet later in the movie, and he had a bit of an accent, and it was so familiar to me. Like, it was right there on the tip of my tongue. Who is this voice actor? I know this person. Who are they? And let's just say it's a certain beloved character from the Ted Lasso series, Danny Rojas. Oh boy. That actor, I really hope to see more from him in the future in other things outside of Ted Lasso. It was a delight to have him almost sort of cameo in the movie. So let me go ahead and rate this sucker so I can get out of here. Out of 5 Peruvian hieroglyphs, I would say if you are a bit of an OG fan like I am of G1 Transformers and the franchise as a whole, then the movie is probably a 3.5 out of 5 Peruvian hieroglyphs. But if you're just a casual moviegoer and not so invested in all that, then perhaps I'd say it's a 3 out of 5 Peruvian hieroglyphs. So yeah, if you're a Transformers fan, check it out. But honestly, if you want to see the best movie right now, without a doubt, it is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But closing out the show today, this is Eric. And until next time, the parking lot is yours.
Prognosis negative.